Great, thanks, Kara. Okay, so a little bit about the presenters for today. We have Kara Becker, who's a career counselor, Marietta Botero, who's in charge of the financial leadership program at Baruch, as well as myself, Cheryl Probst, who's also a career counselor, and Hope Winters, who is a career counselor as well. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about the initiatives and the goals of the 27 CEOs program. The program seeks to hire early career New Yorkers for stable jobs leading to long-term careers. The aim is to hire 100,000 New Yorkers by the year 2030, including 25,000 CUNY students. Our goal today is to help you learn how micro-credentials will prepare you for these internship and job opportunities. Of course, we encourage you to follow up with your career counselors, and we will go over some really important tips today. Next slide.
Oh my God.
Okay, so we are going to hear a message from the top. We're going to start with our chancellor, CUNY's chancellor, followed by Jamie Dimond, who is the CEO and chairman of JP Morgan Chase. So if you'll allow me to share my screen, Hope, I can run those videos. All right, awesome.
We can't hear it.
No.
Okay.
Ina, do you have the audible, enabled, the audio? Back up.
It's on the share screen. When you share screen,
Got it.
it's at the bottom. There's two little
My
doohies.
apologies, everyone, and let's start that from the top.
Hi, I am Felix Matos Rodriguez, the Chancellor of the City University of New York, and I want to congratulate each one of you for taking advantage of this new CUNY opportunity to boost your skills for in-demand jobs. Not only are you helping yourself, but you're also making history, participating in the very first set of courses developed jointly by the partnership of the New York Jobs CEO Council and CUNY. We are so proud of you. CUNY is partnering with 27 of the largest companies in New York City through the New York Jobs CEO Council to strengthen career pathways and give you a competitive advantage with council companies in their hiring for paid internships and full-time jobs. We are committed to preparing you for the jobs of the future that have family-sustaining wages and opportunities for real career advancement. We know you got this. You are the talented CUNY students that are the future of New York City's workforce. I wish you the best of luck. Congratulations.
Okay, and now we're going to hear from Jamie Dimond.
Hello, students. A year ago, we gathered CEOs of 13 major companies to work together to change the ability of students in New York to get good jobs in the city's major companies. Today, the New York CEO Jobs Council has now grown to 27 major companies with hundreds of thousands of employees all over the world. Our collective goal is to hire 100,000 New Yorkers who have not had a pathway to good jobs to enter the workforce with the skills they need for the future of work. 25,000 of those students will be from CUNY. I have always believed that corporate America has to be more involved in the critical issues of our time, and that includes education and relevant work skills. Neither New York City nor our country can thrive in the face of growing income inequality and lack of social mobility. We must fix our system to give equal opportunity to Black, Latinx, and Asian communities. So I want to say to you now, congratulations. You were selected because of your academic success and personal grit. You're exactly the kinds of people this program wanted to attract. You are now part of something very big and important. The Jobs Council and CUNY want to develop a new way for education and businesses to work together. We will build clear pathways for your success, and you will help create stronger companies in New York City. The Jobs Council companies want you to work with them as apprenticeships, interns, and employees. Today is your first up on the road forward. I hope you enjoy the journey.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. So let's
If you can
talk a
share-
little bit.
If you can share your screen or give the screen to me.
Yep. I stopped sharing, folks, so you
Okay.
should be on next. Okay, next slide. All right, so let's talk about some online workshop etiquette, just so that our workshop runs as smoothly as possible. So please keep yourself on mute. Turning on your video is welcome, but not required. If you utilize video, please ensure that you're dressed properly and your background is free of distraction. Questions during the workshop are welcome. Feel free to use the chat box. We will be monitoring that and checking it throughout the program. You may also use the raise hand feature if and when the facilitator poses a question to the group. Next slide. All right, so we're going to start off with our first session on writing a winning resume.
Great. Thank you so much, Tina. Hi, everyone. My name is Kara Becker. So we want to spend some time really talking about some really important areas of career development, because if you're going to go out there and look for jobs and internships, you really want to feel prepared with a quality resume, with LinkedIn, networking, all of that, under your belt, so that you can confidently go out there and look for opportunities. So we're first going to start off by talking about a resume. This part's going to be a little more didactic, and then we're going to be a little more interactive through the presentation, but we really want to share some important tips so that you can feel good about your resume. Next slide. So just want to throw it out to the group. If you could put in the chat box, what do you think is the purpose of a resume? You can just type in some answers or thoughts that you have around that. To get noticed, somebody put. What else? An overview of your experience. A quick summary to highlight. Right, okay, now we're getting to it. So to get to the interview stage, to get people interested. So really the purpose of your resume is to get an interview, right? It's not going to get you the job. It's, going to get you to the interview so that you can have the opportunity to sit down with somebody and really share about your background and experience and sell yourself in that setting. So you really want your resume to get you to that next step. Next slide. So employers are really looking for a well-rounded candidate. So they're really going to be looking at your academic experience, your professional experience, your personal experiences. Obviously, you don't go into personal information on the resume, but they are looking for someone who's well-rounded. So someone who has excelled in various areas, and they're not just focused on one thing, and they have a lot to share and a lot to offer as a candidate. Next slide. Okay, so these are some of the sections on your resume. So I'm sure these look familiar to all of you. But you want to make sure that you touch on almost all of these sections as they apply to your background and experience. We're going to go into them in a little more detail right now. So the first area of your resume is contact information at the top. Your name should be centered and bold right at the top of the page. It should be the largest thing on there. That's obviously very important. In terms of your address, the current trend is that you just really need to include your city, state, and zip. So you don't need your street address if you so choose not to put that on your resume. You want to make sure to include your phone number, your email. We always suggest students put their school email. It brands you to the school. It's more professional. Sometimes our personal emails just don't convey a professional tone. And so we want to make sure that we have something professional up there. And then you can also include your LinkedIn URL. We're going to talk about LinkedIn today, that you really should have a comprehensive LinkedIn profile. And so what you can do after you create that is you can actually customize your URL on LinkedIn and put that on your resume. So within your settings section on LinkedIn, you would change the generic URL that they give you to something similar to what you see on the screen here. And then you would include that on your resume so that people can go somewhere to learn a little bit more about your experience. So then your next section typically is the education section, since you're current students. You want to make sure you include your school. And then if you're within a school, in your school, like a business school or a certain program at the school, you also want to make sure you include your degree. So often I see students don't include their degree on the resume. That's a very important piece of information. So you want to make sure you know what degree you're getting. It's typically a Bachelor of Business Administration, a Bachelor of Science, or a Bachelor of Arts, although there are some others as well. Students also can get Associate of Arts or Associate of Applied Science. So these are some of the degrees that you might be receiving. So you want to check with your career center. You also want to include your graduation date. So you don't need to include your start and end date, just your graduation date is enough to put on there. Then the next section, this is an optional section. I think this is a great space filler if you don't have a lot of experience, but to include a coursework section. You want to always think about your resume and all of your career materials as a representation of your brand. So you want to always put relevant information on there. So there's no need to list every course you've ever done. We want to list our relevant courses. So the ones that are relevant to our brand and relevant to what we want to do in our career would make sense to go up there. Typically, as you get further along in your educational experience, you don't necessarily need a coursework section because there's probably other things you can put that will elaborate more on what you've done versus just a laundry list of courses. But it is a good section off the bat if you don't have a lot yet. So this section I really love, an academic project section. So if you have in any of those courses completed a more comprehensive academic project, whether it be a group project or even an individual project, you can highlight that on your resume and go into greater detail on it. So this is a really wonderful section for people who maybe haven't done an internship yet or don't have a lot of experience in their field of choice, but they have done projects related to that. So, you know, for example, I know at Baruch, there's an intro to business class where students will really thoroughly observe a company and shadow it and dissect it and you know, analyze a lot of aspects of the company. And so that's something you can put as a project where you would put the name of the class and the school, you would put the name of the project or your title if that makes sense, and then you can put some bullet points to describe exactly what you did for the project, what your role was, what you learned. And this is a great place to be able to include jargon that's related to your field. So business related, tech related, you know, finance related jargon related to your field. So typically the next section would be your experience section. So this is like the meat of your resume usually. So this is where you would include any experiences that you've had. They don't necessarily have to be paid work experiences. So they can be unpaid, they can be volunteer, they can be internship, they can be, you know, any experience you've had that you feel has contributed to your learning and growth in the field or in just your skills in general. And so you want to make sure you include the name of the position, the city and state, the job title that you've held for it, and then the dates that you completed that, and then put those bullet points underneath that really describe what you did. So for a bullet point, a formula that we like to use would be the action verb plus the task of whatever you were doing, and then plus the result of that task. So I know on here it's detailed a little bit different, but the numbers and the dollar signs are that you want to also quantify wherever you can. So within that task or the result of that task, you want to make sure that you quantify. So for example, not just providing assistance to customers, but how many customers maybe per day or per week or per month. And then what was the result of that? So maybe in providing your assistance to customers that led to an increase in sales or, you know, led to some type of increase for your company that you can share. You don't have to include results that maybe the company provides to you. Maybe you can also calculate results. Like maybe you created an organizational system for your company and that led to things becoming more efficient. And it's not like anybody told you it's more efficient, but you maybe said, okay, this used to take me an hour to do, and now it takes me 30 minutes to do. So I made it, 100% more efficient in the system I created. So we always want to think about not just what we did, but what it led to for our companies or for our positions. That's always going to be the best bullets that you can include. Next slide. So another really useful section on the resume is going to be a leadership section. So a lot of companies mention to us that they love to see a leadership section on a student's resume. So this can take many forms. This can be in the form of an extracurricular on campus where you hold a leadership position. This can be tutoring. This can be, volunteering for an organization where you're in some sort of leadership role. So you really want to think about opportunities that you can seek where you can build your leadership skills. These are skills that companies look for and you want to highlight on your resume. And I do want to add that in terms of experience, leadership, all of these sections, we always want to think about our brand, right? And put things that support our brands, but many of the skills that you gain along the way are what we call transferable skills. So even if you have a barista job at Starbucks or you work in retail at a clothing store, you're gaining a lot of transferable skills that are still going to be important for you in your future career. And so you still want to highlight those on your resume. So, helping customers is really going to give you client service skills, or, being, holding like a leadership position at a club on campus that's maybe like not related to your career fields at all is still going to give you leadership skills that can be transferable. So we really want to think about our skills as being transferable and make sure that we highlight those on our resume. So activities is another section that you can include. So if you don't have a leadership position, if you're just a member of a club or you volunteer sporadically for different, organizations, you can include an activity section, or you can maybe combine this with your leadership section if that makes sense. So this is a really important section for students in tech. So typically technical skills goes towards the bottom of your resume. However, if you're seeking a position where your tech skills are going to be really key to your being selected for that position, then you might consider putting your technical skills way at the top of your resume, maybe even before your education. So within technical skills, if you're really seeking something a little less technical related, then you would just simply list, any software and, computer programs that If you're looking for something really more in the tech space, like really more detailed, then you would break that out. So you would list all the software skills you have, any computer languages, any databases you're comfortable with, operating systems, so you can actually segment that out to really get into more detail of all of your technical skills. Also at the bottom of the resume, we typically see languages. So these are spoken languages, not computer languages, and you would list any languages that So there's a few different ways that you can represent how well you know a language. You can be fluent in something, conversational, proficient, have knowledge in it. So it's, the honor system that you would think about what level you are at with that language and you put it on your resume. Some jobs will, be looking for somebody that is fluent or, proficient in a certain language, and they would always put that on their job description. So you would make sure that, you match that in terms of how you represent it on your resume. Certifications is another section that you can put. This is a little bit more of an optional section. You may or may not have them at this point, but now you're all earning the micro-credential. So this can be a section that you consider for your resume. Anytime you really build your skills and learn something new and get a certification for it or a credential for it, you can add that. And there's lots of places that you can really build your skills, like LinkedIn Learning, Lynda, Coursera. These are all really great resources. I believe my colleague mentioned Coursera has become free for New York State residents, so that's something to check out. Lynda is accessible through your public library, so you can always get free access to that there. And then, you know, the certifications like we're doing today with the micro-credential. And certifications can be its own section, or it can be within the education section. It really depends on your resume where it makes sense to put it. But, you know, if you really want to highlight something like what you're doing now, which is something really stellar, then I would definitely consider its own section to highlight this. In terms of format, just some tidbits to be aware of. The resume should be 1 to 2 pages. I personally am in the camp of 1 page for a student's resume, unless you really have a lot to say that can warrant 2 pages. Typically, the second page should be a third of a page or more. If it's less, then you probably can adjust your formatting and get it back onto 1 page. Your margin should be 0.5 to 1 inch around, of simple font type like Arial, Calibri, Times New Roman. Font size 10 to 14 range, 14 being maybe for your name, you know, 10 for bullets. We don't want to really go smaller. We want it to be legible and easy to read. Here's a sample resume just to give you a sense of what this could look like. So you'll notice here there's the technical skills section at the top. So this candidate moved it up so that they can really highlight all of that. I like this. There's also a certifications up there as well. So this might make sense for based on, you know, your own experience. However, every resume is going to be different. So this is a sample. This isn't by no means the only way to do it, but this is a good one, we thought. So applicant tracking system is just important to be made aware of. Applicant tracking system is basically when you apply for a job and the company puts it through a system before it gets to human eyes and weeds out candidates that way. So if your resume doesn't have certain content in it, then you wouldn't make it through to the human eyes to review. However, there are other reasons that your resume can not get through the applicant tracking system. So it's important to be aware. We don't want to get too fancy with our resumes, like with headers and footers, with templates, with charts and tables embedded in them. You know, we really want to make sure that the resumes are simple enough. And you can typically tell if it's going to go through the system. I mean, you never could be sure, but if you're applying on an online system, on a company website, for a larger company, there's a good chance that it would go through an ATS system. If it's, you know, a small mom and pop kind of firm or a startup, it's less likely. So, you know, you always think about that and use your judgment there. But the simpler, the better your resume to get through these systems. And then text analyzer is something that there's a program online where you can actually put job descriptions in of companies that you're interested in, and it will go through and analyze the text for you and let you know which keywords come up the most so that you can get a sense of what you should include on your resume to make sure that, you know, you're really portraying yourself and representing your brand, like I mentioned, in the best way. So I'm going to jump into the next section, but we just want to mention that throughout the presentation, after each section, if you have questions, please put them in the chat box, and either myself or one of my colleagues will jump in and answer anything you have. And hopefully we'll have a little time at the end as well. So now I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about LinkedIn. So before we start, I just want to explain what LinkedIn is for any of you who don't maybe have it or haven't used it really yet. But LinkedIn is basically like a professional Rolodex. So in the past, it really was about who you knew. And, you know, you had to be introduced through colleagues and friends and family to network and to make connections. And now there's this resource called LinkedIn where there's millions of professionals online. And if you're utilizing LinkedIn correctly, then you have access to all those professionals and you can network with them just on your computer screen. So you don't need to ask around. You don't need to, you know, dig into your personal network. You can really find anyone that you need in any field on this site. And so it's a really useful site for your careers. And I definitely encourage you all to be on it frequently as you're embarking on your job and internship search. So just for, I want to see in the chat box or on your picture on here, if you could give me a thumbs up if you have a LinkedIn profile already. Anyone have LinkedIn already? Okay, I'm seeing a couple thumbs come up. Not too many. Okay, so a bunch in the chat box here. So great. That's great to see that a lot of you already have LinkedIn. So this might be a little familiar, but I definitely want to touch on the profiles to make sure that your profiles are complete and they're ready to go, so that when you are networking and talking to professionals and applying for opportunities, your LinkedIn helps support your application and not hurt you. So I'm going to talk about the profile, and then my colleague later on is going to talk about how to use LinkedIn for networking purposes. But we want to make sure our profiles look good, so that when we network with somebody and they review us, they can really get a great sense of who we are. So just to go through some of the most important areas of LinkedIn, your photo is extremely important. So your photo, I believe the statistic says, makes you 8 or 9 times more likely to be viewed by having a photo than by not having a photo. So we definitely want to make sure that we include that, and we want it to represent our brand. So we want to make sure that it shows us in the way that that makes sense for the jobs we want to apply for. So for example, your photo might be different if you're applying for startups than if you're applying for JP Morgan, right? You want to make sure you're speaking to the industry that you're applying for while still being professional in both photos. The headline is going to be, I think, one of the most important sections of your profile. So we're going to talk about that in more detail and practice our headlines in a little bit. And the summary as well. I think these sections are really critical to your LinkedIn. But we'll go into more detail. So then the next section is your experience. So it's going to be similar to your resume. We're going to copy and paste over a lot of what we just talked about. All the same rules apply. We want to show accomplishments. We want to be really impressive in showing what we've done with our experiences. Organizations is another section you can think about including based on what you've done. You can go to the next slide. So education is going to go on the LinkedIn profile. So this is where you can include your school. You can also include the micro-credential in here. And a side note, if it makes sense, you can include the micro-credential as an experience on your resume as well. There's a volunteer experience section. There's a skills section. So this is another section that I like. You want to make sure you include skills that are relevant to the career you want to pursue. So this is not for every skill that you've ever obtained or that you think you have. We want to remember that we're creating a brand for ourselves, and so we want the skills on there to represent that brand. Honors and awards can go on here. We can list courses. We can list projects, and not only that, but we can actually put samples of our work. So what I love about LinkedIn is it's a little more multi-dimensional than the resume. You can put samples of work as long as it's appropriate to do so, right? So you're not like sharing company proprietary information, but any samples of work that you've done at internships or maybe projects, you can include on here. So you're not just saying you've done something, but you're actually showing it, which is really great. And then recommendations. I definitely recommend having at least 2 to 3 recommendations on here to, again, give another dimension to your professional self. So I just love this quote. This just talks about how important it is to have a complete profile. It says that users with complete profiles are 40 times more likely to receive opportunities or to be found. LinkedIn works on algorithms. So the more complete your profile, the more searchable you are, and the more you'll come up and the more you'll get contacted. Okay, so now we're getting to the real meat of it. So the headline. So your headline is essentially your slogan for your professional brand. So I think that the headline and the summary are really the most important part. This is the first thing that people see. So you could see my LinkedIn underneath. The first thing that people see is my photo, my name, and my headline. So that's what makes somebody want to click into your profile to learn more about you. So your headline can be 120 characters, and you really want to include in this lots of keywords to really help somebody understand what it is that you want to do or that you've done and have experience in. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So I just want to show you when you don't update your headline, this is the default that it goes to. So it either goes to student at whatever university you're at. So this is a pretend student, but resume worded university, or it'll default to your current work experience. So let's put in the chat box if you can all share, what do you think file's really missing that makes you not want to click on it? Or what does the profile need to make you want to click on it? You can just put it right in the chat. A summary, a profile pic. So in the headline, you don't really, you can't include the summary. That's within the profile. And then the profile pic is obviously right there on the left. So these are about the words. So instead of saying student at Resume Worded University, how can she edit this? What does she need to say in there to make it really more enticing? So it doesn't show what she's done. Right, there we go. So her major, her aspiring occupation, what she's studying, her year, her pursuing degree. So we know nothing about her, right? So what would make all the students at Resume Worded University, if they all came up on here, what would make us want to click on her versus somebody else? There's really nothing there. What degree she's pursuing exactly. So if we can go to the next slide. So now here are some customized headlines. So I know these are a little small, but I think you can get the gist of the difference. So why don't we put in the chat now, what about these headlines makes you want to click on them? What's more appealing here? They're specific, they have skills, right? Anything else we notice? Graduation date, aspiring careers, right? So they have keywords, which is huge, and they stand out. They show, you know, something about the person. So all four of these may go to the Resume Worded University, but that doesn't matter, right? We don't even see that. We know so much more about each of them, and we can really decide who we want to click into to learn more about what they've done. Next slide. So here is a kind of formula for writing a headline. So this isn't the only way to do it. This is just to get you started in thinking about it. But we can think about dividing our headline into three parts, where the first part talks about maybe the job that we're aspiring to have, or if you already have experience in that field, even better, to mention that you already have experience right off the bat. So that's the first thing that somebody sees. Then the second piece of the headline can mention industry specific keywords that you know are going to be important when somebody is searching for you. So to make sure you include that within the second section. Personally, I don't love the word seeking on the headline, but you know, as students, it's a little more forgiving. As a job seeker, once you've graduated, it's not the best word to use. So, you know, if you could leave that out and just somehow find a way to include some industry jargon, that would be great to put on the headline there. And then for the third section, you know, some additional hard skills, maybe computer, kind of tech languages and software and all of that you feel like you're competent in, to put in your headline as well. Obviously, you guys know all the tech jargon way better than I do, but to, you know, put that there, or maybe there's something that sets you apart from your classmates or your colleagues, like maybe the micro-credential can go there, or maybe, you know, you maintained a 4.0 GPA while working 40 hours a week, or maybe there's just something really noteworthy. Maybe you're the president of a club, so you have like substantial leadership experience. So, you know, something that is a really impressive skill to include as well. And then I really like the use of those symbols in between to, you know, really help segment the different parts of the headline. So let's take a couple of minutes. Why don't you start thinking about your own headlines and drafting something, and then maybe a few brave souls can just type them into the chat box. We can look at them. I'll read some out to the group. You know, I'll keep it anonymous, just read whatever comes up.
Kara, while people are working on their headline, there's a few questions in the chat that didn't get addressed. Can I read them out to you?
Sure, let's do that. So everyone, if you could just think about your headlines, and then in a couple minutes, we'll see if a few people can put them in the chat, and I'll handle some questions right now.
The first one was, I think, confusion around what the text analyzer is. A student was asking if they could have access to analyzer. So can you explain that again?
It's just something to Google online that would come up. But we'll look for a link and see if we can send that around after.
Okay, the second question is, how much information should we add in our resume regarding a project from school or any workplace? Should we just add the overall summary with day-to-day activities?
So it's really going to depend. Every resume is different. For someone who has little to no work experience yet, the project section is a really great place to go into detail on academics. But if you've done, 3-4 internships, and you're not going to really have room for academic projects. So it's really going to depend on the person. We definitely don't want to take away from internship experience with academic projects. Internship experience is like the holy grail of, really building your resume. So it's going to depend. In terms of how you describe a project, really the more detail, the better. Think about the reader. They don't know anything about that project. They don't know anything about what you did at that job. So we want to give them enough detail so that when they read it, they really understand what we did. So we don't, we don't want to be super high level. Like if we're going into more detail on specific aspects, that's going to be more useful than giving these like big picture kind of job description type bullets.
Okay, the next question, I don't think we can address today, but maybe in the follow-up email. Can you teach us how to search alumni based on major? They reference a specific group on LinkedIn at Baruch Business Group at LinkedIn.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll have time to go so specific, but when my colleague Hope talks later about using LinkedIn for networking, I think she's going to mention how to look for alumni on there. So we'll definitely get them started on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I put a link on here for LinkedIn for college students. What looks like it has little videos for college students to maybe see how to do those functions and different functions on there.
Okay, those were the only questions that I saw that didn't get addressed already.
Thank you, Katie. All right, so back to the headline. So does anyone want to put what they came up with in the chat box, and we'll read them out loud and just see, how we're doing with that. I see one person put in right now, experienced relationship manager delivering value. So that one's off to a really great start. We have a sense of where the experience is, but we can definitely add more detail to something like that. Like what kind of value, delivering what kind of value, right? Maybe there's some sort of major success that's happened in your career thus far, or what about some keywords to include in there? And we can look at some job descriptions of things that we're interested in to really get a sense of what those keywords are, to know what to include. Does anyone else have one? Okay, here's another. Web content manager, technical support, computer science major. And another one, aspiring strategy consultant seeking entry-level consulting role, Baruch Climate Scholar and Centerbridge Finance Fellow. Cool. So in this last one, we learned so much about this person in the 120-word character limit. I like all of your use of the spacing to differentiate the different thoughts for your headline. And I, want to mention, I know it's a little tricky sometimes in LinkedIn to actually insert symbols. There is a profile, and I'll put his name in the chat box here. His name is Jason Alba, and he wrote a book on LinkedIn. And then within his profile, you can actually copy and paste symbols to include into your own profile. And they're very easy. It copy and paste right over, whereas sometimes via Word, it gets a little tricky. It doesn't paste over. And he includes different symbols. So he'll include not just the ones that we've been using today, but like stars and, circles and hollow circles and different symbols that you can include not just in your headline, but maybe in your summary or other places as well. All right, so let's just keep going. And I do want to mention that the headline takes time. So if you didn't think of anything just now in a couple of minutes, it takes time to really come up with a solid headline. Sometimes you have to really sit on it and think about it for a little bit. So the summary section, this is going to be another, I think, critical section of your LinkedIn. This is where you have the most character limit. You have, I think, 2,000 character limit on the summary. And this is almost like a mini cover letter where you can go into a lot more detail on your experience and more about who you are. So you really want to think about some of the questions up there on the screen. And a nice format that I like to share for the summary is a 3-paragraph format. I think that's a really nice way to lay it out so that you get a lot of information across in a very readable way. Where the first paragraph, you include an overview of yourself, an intro about you, your background, what you're pursuing, what you're doing in school. Your second paragraph would be a bulleted paragraph. So you would bullet point some of your key accomplishments. So this is a great place to really just highlight some of those key things that you've done, to give someone who's really reading quickly or doesn't have a lot of time a place to go to learn a lot about you in a short period of time in a very easy to read way. And then your third paragraph, you can go a few different directions. Sometimes people put their philosophy around their field, right? So what you see as the future of the field that you're considering, or maybe a core competency list, or maybe, just something interesting and unique about you that you want to share. So that tends to be a nice format to include for that. Slide. So here's a sample LinkedIn just to see it all in action. So you notice here, she has a pretty thorough headline at the top. She has the summary section with the 3 paragraphs with the key accomplishments bulleted in the middle there. And then the rest, obviously, that we talked about with experience, education, skills that follow. And you actually see at the bottom there, she's included 2 samples of work, which I think is a really nice facet that LinkedIn offers that you don't get to do on a resume. So for resume and LinkedIn, since I'm turning it over to my colleague, if you have any questions about anything I shared, feel free to put in the chat and I'll answer it as we go, or you can hold your questions to the end if we have time and we'll answer them then.
So thank you very much. Good afternoon. We're going to discuss composing your personal pitch. My name is Marietta Botero, and I'm the program manager for the financial leadership program at Baruch College. Can we go to the next page, please? What I'd like to know is how many of you can put just a Y in the chat box. How many of you have been to either events, interviews, or networking opportunities where you've been asked the question, tell me about yourself? So it's a pretty popular question because as we've gone through from the beginning of this presentation to now, we've gone through the resume, which contains a host of information about your background and your education and your experience and skills. And then you're on LinkedIn and you're trying to meet people and you're networking and you're hoping that they will bring you to great opportunities or help you to shepherd you to great opportunities. But wherever you go, whenever you're going to be interviewed, or at a networking session, you will most likely be asked, tell me about yourself. And it's better known as the personal pitch, which is commonly used in interviews, networking events, conversations, info sessions. And it's a professional tool for you and everyone to give someone a concise overview of your skills and experiences as a candidate and as an individual. It shouldn't be more than approximately 2 to 3 minutes in length and focuses on 3 to 5 key messages that make you memorable. And in a different way, if you want to look at it, it virtually enhances your resume because now you're doing this in person. And so they get to see you and meet you. And hopefully it's in person very soon, as opposed to what we've been doing. So composing, next slide, please. Composing your personal story is one that really begs you to create a very vivid personal image about yourself and how it identifies with your personality and identity. So what are your unique strengths? What are the unique things that you have done? What are some of your most significant accomplishments? How do you articulate the qualities that differentiate you? Because you want to differentiate yourself from every other candidate. And you need to emphasize very strongly a deep and exceptional approach to a project and a burning desire for the job or the role, or for being in that particular profession, moreover. So you need to really think about challenging yourself to think of the things you've accomplished. Identify yourself in the present tense. You want to create a vivid personal image by associating yourself with your identity. So for example, are you a student athlete? Are you a reporter or editor of a school newspaper? Have you been a volunteer fireman, ambulance aide? Have you tutored children? What is it about you that makes you different and sets you apart from everyone else? Have you overcome immigration into the United States, learned a different language, started a club at school because there wasn't one that covered that interest that you had? So think about your leadership roles that you've had. All of those things, whether it's self-funding your own education or being a leader in an organization or amongst a group or in a project, set you apart from others. So these are the things that you want to mill through, think about, and see what are the most interesting things about you that you can present in your pitch. So the guidelines for composing your story is really to challenge yourself, to think of the things that you've done, to keep your story concise, so 2 minutes or less if possible, because anything longer than 3 minutes, I can tell you, will begin to distract the audience or the interviewer and you've lost them. So let's make sure that you have a really good start that says something like, I'm a native of Dallas, Texas, and I moved to New York to attend college. So that's something that will keep the individuals in check and be able to keep you in their purview of interview. So we do want to make sure that you understand how to do this. And we were hoping to put you all into a networking group. And I think we'll do that with Hope Winters in the next section. But here is just my draft of something that I developed that I would think might be something suitable as a pitch for this particular group. So if you state your name, the college you're attending, your year and your major, you can say something like this. When I was growing up, I was unsure about what I wanted to do, but I knew I was mathematically inclined. When I was in high school, I discovered a passion for technology, which requires solid math skills. In college, I'm pursuing that passion, taking courses that have expanded my knowledge. By participating in the Micro-Credential program, I am further deepening my knowledge and skills in, so it's either project management, data analytics, cybersecurity, software engineering. What you want to really, really think about when you're creating this pitch is to identify what prompts you to be interested in that specific sector of the industry and why you have a burning desire to do that job. And one big reminder is don't ask for the job, tell them why you are the best fit for that job. So when you go to the breakout room next, perhaps you want to start developing something for yourself if you don't have one already. If you do, then that's great. And we're happy to review them if you put them in the chat room. Thank you.
Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. Thank you, Marietta. We're going to talk about networking now. My name is Hope Winters. So what is networking? Everyone talks about networking. It sounds so intimidating. I've heard from students that it's something that they worry about, but it's something that you've actually done your whole life. It's just building relationships. That's all it is. And that's why networking these days is often called social networking. It's making connections with people based on your shared interests. You help each other grow in various ways. If there's an opportunity, you can say, I heard of this opportunity that you might be interested in, and it's giving advice and receiving advice. So who do we network with? And this is my whole point, is that you've been networking with your friends forever. That's how you make friends, right? You connect with someone, you decide maybe you've got common interests, maybe you introduce one friend to another friend. It's the same idea when you're talking about the world of business. So the reason why networking works, I'm sure you realize it, is because it has a multiplying effect. So if you look at this image, you are in the middle and you have 4 friends. You talk to those 4 friends, maybe you know them from school. They introduce you to another 3 friends. Maybe you form a study group, right? Maybe you end up joining clubs together. Those 3 people then end up connecting you to 2 or 3 or 4 other people. So you can see very, very quickly, you start off with 4 friends and you end up here with 32 new friends. And that is how networking works. And that is something that you just have all done naturally. That's how you build a circle of friends. So today we're going to connect with each other as friends. We're actually going to do 5 minutes, not 2 minutes, because you really are the beginning of a professional network. But let's start off just talking to each other as friends, which is very, very similar. So introduce yourself, your name, college, anything you really want to talk about. You can talk about whether or not you used to work, if you work now, what's, how you're feeling about this pandemic, what do you do for fun, do you have common interests, and you can exchange phone numbers if you want to stay in touch. So this is your first opportunity to connect with people who have your micro-credential or maybe someone else's micro-credential. We're going to go into breakout rooms now.
And as we do, Hope, I did put in the chat all of these questions that are on this slide, so everyone can refer to them.
Thank you, Tina.
Is to take a picture of these questions so you have them when you go into the breakout room.
Now you can go.
Okay, great. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you all kind of made the beginnings of a friendship. Again, it takes time to build a relationship over time. What you just did was the beginning of connecting with each other. So now we're going to go talk about networking in our career world. We network in our career world really for the same reasons as friends. We're growing our circle of business connections. We're giving advice, learning about the industry. Again, you're in the middle. Let's just say that you know 4 professionals in various industries. And then you have a relationship with them. Maybe you met them at a career fair, or maybe you met them at a corporate panel at your school, or maybe you even met them at a sporting event that someone introduced you to someone. They'll introduce you to a few more of their colleagues, and they'll introduce you to a few more of their colleagues. So it starts out with you knowing 4 professionals. And at the end of this very small networking, you've got 32. And so that is the way that this works. And I know students have said to me, well, wait, this feels really fake to me. It feels fake going up to someone and saying, hi, how are you? When really, don't they know and don't I know that all I really want is a job? And the answer is yes. Everyone understands that networking is a way for you to find opportunities, in addition to learning about the industry and other things. So this is not a secret. Everybody knows that the way to find opportunities in the world of business right now is to do this. So you're not pulling the wool over anyone's eyes. What does networking accomplish? So you can see that 85% of open positions are filled through networking, and at least 70% of jobs are not even listed. So what does that even mean? Okay, for example, let's just say there's a cybersecurity department in a bank, and there's 4 people who work for the director. The director says to them, you know what, we're going to have a 5th person in our team. It's going to be an entry-level position. Right away, those 4 people in that department are probably saying to themselves, maybe I know someone who'd be interested in that position. Maybe one of them was at a career fair at your school, and maybe you were someone who went up to that person and said, I'm really interested in cybersecurity. Can you connect me? Let's connect over a cup of coffee. Maybe you can tell me more about the industry. That person is going to say, you know what? I had a good conversation with someone at a career fair. He or she has since emailed me, or we had a cup of coffee. Let me suggest that maybe you interview this person. That is how networking works. And that is why 70% of jobs are not even listed. So which business professionals should you network with? Really anyone you come across. Certainly those that are in your industry, but not necessarily, because again, it's about connecting you to other people. So any professional that you have a connection with, that you meet at a college career fair, college career panels, networking events in person in New York City, which we're going to talk about. They used to have networking events in person, and they will have them again once we're through this pandemic, or on LinkedIn, which we'll talk about. any professionals that you meet on the college campus for any reason. Maybe they're talking at a corporate event, professors, coaches, really anyone. Again, as I said, where do you network? Well, in the days when we're doing face-to-face, it's over a cup of coffee. You can also do a phone call or Zoom, which is very common these days, have an email, and again, at your college and any kind of professional in-person event. Okay, so let's talk about networking in person, which you will be doing again, hopefully very soon. All you need to do is Google up a professional group in your area. So professional group in software engineers, data analytics, all this kind of thing. It took me 5 minutes to Google up. I went and Googled up software engineer groups. I immediately came up to IEEE, which is a group for software engineers. I immediately got to Project Management Institute when I Googled up project management. There was a list of many others. Then I found Wilder Security Forums. Again, all I did was Google up groups, cybersecurity, and the same thing with digital analytics. I just Googled up data analytics. Most of these have chapters in the New York City area, and right now they're conducting their business on Zoom. The best platform for networking, as Kara was saying, is LinkedIn, because you don't even have to meet someone in person to hook into their network, to hook into their group. LinkedIn is nothing more than Facebook for professionals. The first group, so you want to join groups on LinkedIn. Yes, you can actually search a person specifically. So if you're having an interview with someone, you can put that person's name in LinkedIn and learn about that interviewer. But really the first thing you want to do is you want to join groups. And the first group that you absolutely want to join is your college alumni group. So in this case, I went to Baruch Alumni Group. I clicked on it as a request to join. Once you're in that group, you can search by the different roles that people have. You can search by where they're located, how many of them are in New York or other areas. You can search in a lot of different ways once you are actually part of that group. So here's something you can do once you're part of that group. You can, if you go at the top, I put in Baruch software engineering, and I got a list in seconds of Baruch alumni who are in software engineering. You can see that I circled Mataki Kareem. He is a software engineer, as you can see. If I click on this, I can actually connect directly with him. I can send a note right through LinkedIn. I can say, hi, my name is Dominique or Chiara. I'm currently getting a micro-credential in software engineering. I'm learning a little bit. I'd like to learn a little bit more about the industry. I'd love to have a conversation with you by phone. Here's my phone number, or here's my email. Can we connect? And they will respond to you directly on LinkedIn, and then you can connect with them. Again, joining groups is key on LinkedIn. So you can also, aside from going through your alumni group, you can just Google up software engineering groups right onto LinkedIn, and immediately you'll find many, many groups that you can join. So I've circled software engineering professionals, and it'll have a description of what that group is. So in this case, it's software engineering professionals is a community group. There you go. You are now part of the community if you've got a micro-credential in software engineering for experienced software engineers, on and on and on. If you want to join that, you click on it. Sometimes they'll say there's a request to join. Sometimes you'll be able to join immediately. Once you go in there, you'll learn all about the industry. There'll be opportunities to join various Zoom webinars, and there will also be jobs posted, believe it or not, in those groups. If you scroll down a little more, I circled women in software engineering. Again, this is for, for women in the software engineering. Maybe you feel more comfortable in that group, or maybe, you can join a number of groups. You click on here, the same thing. You'll have many opportunities to learn about the industry. There'll be jobs listed. In many cases, there's also a mentoring component to these groups so that you can click on and say that you're looking for a mentor. Let's talk about how do we network when we're talking about a business professional. Well, on the left-hand side, what you don't want to do is talk nonstop about yourself. You don't want to say directly, will you find me an internship or a job, even though the end game is that. You don't say you want to hire me. The same way you don't want to say to a friend, will you be my friend? Will you do my homework for me? it's just not how you establish a relationship. It's the exact same way. So what are you going to do? You're going to introduce yourself, as Marietta talked about. You've got a personal pitch. It can be a short personal pitch. It could be as 30 seconds. It could be a longer one, as 2 to 3 minutes, as Marietta said. You ask questions. You say, well, what is it that you like about being a software engineer, a cybersecurity expert, project manager, or data analyst? You say, what advice would you give someone like me who's just learning about the industry? Those are the kinds of questions you're going to ask a business professional that you meet who's in your area, maybe at a career fair. So now what we're going to do is we're going to break into groups. Tina is going to put those questions. Tina's going to put those questions into the chat. Remember, if you want to do a little personal pitch, feel free to do that. Otherwise, you can answer these questions. So we're going to go to breakout rooms right now. And you're going to have a good 5 minutes or 6 minutes or so to connect with each other.
Okay. You should have gotten your invites. Did everybody get their invites?
Nope.
Oh. Sandy, can you open the rooms? My
Yep.
computer says that the rooms are open.
I know that I've seen the 2 invites so far, so it looks like it's working.
So maybe click on the breakout room function to say go into your room.
Okay. Yeah. So everybody, if you're still here, let me click on this too. So if you are still here, click mouse over the bottom of your Zoom window, and there should be a breakout room icon. If you click on that, an invitation will say, please join room, whatever, and then you'll join that room.
Is this only for students or for faculty and students? Because I don't have
Only
it.
for
Faculty and students.
only for
Gotcha. Thank you.
okay.
Chris, I
And
don't
then-
have an invite.
Faculty, right now I'm changing it to make sure that you're allowed to record. Let me know if you didn't receive a notice that you're allowed to record.
I have the
I think I
record
got it.
button, but no option for breakout rooms. I think
Yeah,
that's
I
what confused me earlier because I thought the initial breakout room was for everybody, faculty and students, but it was.
Yeah,
only-
no worries.
Great.
Okay, I think I got all of you to be able to record.
Great.
I hope.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks for reminding me.
So waiting for the
I
breakout.
missed the first time too. So confused.
Welcome back, everybody. I'd like to hear from you. How was that? Did you find that you were able to connect with each other as young professionals? Was that useful? Did that take some of the edge off this idea of being worried about what it's like to network? These are the questions that were pasted into the chat for you to talk about.
Don't be shy, speak up now. Come on now, we're trying to put this together for you guys. Get you into the field, get you started. So you need to speak up and help us with this program.
It was pretty easy for me to just talk. It was just me and another guy, and I don't really have a problem talking to people that much.
Okay, that's great.
Good
I
deal.
asked him, well, I'm project management. He's a cybersecurity, I think. So we just talked about how we interpret and view each other's industries from an outsider perspective.
Excellent, excellent. Speak up. Anybody that has something to say, speak up. Come on, we're trying to build this program for you guys. So you need to speak up and help us, help you.
Hello. I also think it was a good practice because it always feels, you always feel like you know what you want to talk about in your head, but then once you have to say it out loud, it feels different. And so yeah, the practice always helps. I think
Bingo.
one of the challenges is bringing your thoughts together, because you're trying to make a pitch, just go straight down to the point. Sometimes you have many ideas popping in your head and you're just wondering which one is the best one to go with. So I guess
Excellent
there's that.
feedback. Excellent.
And that is
Yeah.
why that you should all be talking to your career counselors. They will help you build your personal pitch. You start with 30 seconds and they will give you some guidance as to how to build it out. You can also Google this up and find a lot of good personal pitches online. Okay, so we got some good feedback. We're going to move on right now. Sake of time, we're going to do questions and answers after this. So we're going to continue here. Cheryl?
Thank you, Hope. I'm Cheryl Probst. I'm a career counselor at Starr. And before we close out here, I just wanted to review some resources. So we have that we recommend. These are quality resources that we recommend to students who come for counseling at our center. So we have SEO Career. It is a mentorship program for Black, Hispanic, Native American college students. America Needs You is a mentorship, career development and networking program for ambitious low-income first-generation college students. And for these organizations, you will need to Google them and just kind of explore what their program is all about. Some of them might be very specific to either recent graduates, rising seniors, riders, for freshmen and sophomores. Management Leadership for Tomorrow, MLT, is a career development, coaching and networking program for people of color for high trajectory jobs. T. Howard is dedicated to increasing diversity in the media industry by offering career development opportunities and internships there as well. Streetwise Partners is a mentorship program for adults from under-resourced communities. And there's Inroads, also internship opportunities for outstanding ethnically diverse students. Next slide, please. Okay, and so these are resources specific to opportunities in technology that we recommend. So dice.com is a great website that lists a lot of tech jobs that are available. Vault.com is an amazing career resource with a wealth of information about jobs, industries, and occupations. I believe all CUNY students have access to Vault. The CUNY Hackathon is a great coding opportunity. It builds teamwork and problem-solving skills. I think that's offered 2 weekends per semester. And again, you can Google that. Lynda.com, we had already mentioned that in the presentation. They offer free tech courses through the New York Public Library. All you need is a New York Public Library card, and you can just go on their site and access Lynda.com. Coursera is, again, they offer free online technology courses and certifications through to New York State residents. Khan Academy has free computer programming courses, and General Assembly Flatiron School is not a free program, it's tuition based, but they offer a lot of free weekends and scholarships, things like that, and they are tech education and coding boot camps.
All right, so now we're going to be wrapping up. So let's review the checklist to success. Attend virtual workshops and events both on and off campus. So please don't limit yourself to what's going on at your respective colleges. Take advantage of networking opportunities, attend career fairs. Obviously, there are lots of job opportunities there. Create your LinkedIn profile. Draft your resume, and don't forget to have it reviewed by your career services office. Practice your interviewing skills. Also, practice those networking skills. Complete career assessments. Conduct informational interviews. And remember, CEOs are looking to hire you. Use your resources. Ask questions and get clarification on anything you don't understand. Be confident in your skills, your knowledge, and abilities. Remember, you got this. So we're going to be breaking up with your faculty in breakout rooms.
Yay. Okay, let me push the button. All right, so I'm going to push the button. You should be invited to a room called either cybersecurity, project management, or software engineering. But you also can choose. So I have you already selected, but if for some reason I made a mistake, you can go in there. So you should be getting an invitation right now.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
And again, if for some reason you are not, you don't get the little dialog box letting you know which one to join, if you could mouse over the bottom of the screen where it says breakout group, there's like 4 little dots. You click on that and a little dialog box should pop up that says join the cybersecurity room, join the project management group, or the software engineering group. Did I forget anybody? Hang on, so let me just see if there's.
So it looks like Kabir, Tahir.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording. Hang on.